Hey everyone, it's Dustin with TechMD. Today we are going to be tearing down the S20 Ultra. I am quite excited to tear down this phone. Over here is our hot plate, okay? And I use two different ones, so they vary. But they're quite hot. I got it at 99 degrees Celsius, and it's really hot to the touch. So I got this phone warming up for about 5 minutes due to the camera hump here. You could leave it on like this, but the problem is you won't be warming up the top. So make sure the phone is just nice and toasty and starting to burn your hands a little bit before taking it off this.
Hey everyone, Nicole here with Cellbotics. We are all hands-on cell phone and computer repair training center. We have trained hundreds of students from across the country right here in our training center located in Greenville, South Carolina. Stop being afraid to do repairs, stop searching for things because a lot of things you don't even know what to search for, and don't practice on somebody else's device to grow your skill. Come on down and get training that'll give you the skill set to do the repairs and diagnostics to make the real money. Be sure to use code TechMD at checkout and you'll receive $50 off of your course. I look forward to seeing you in class.
Anyways, once you get it nice and warmed up, like I said, about 5 minutes at the 99 degrees Celsius, you're fine. If you're going to use a hairdryer, it's going to be very difficult to remove, and also a heat gun as well. I'd highly recommend a professional for this because it is a $1,400 phone. But if you want to tackle this phone, then you're going to need a few tools. We're going to start off with the iFlex tool here, and you can also purchase this on the website, and the link in the description. Okay, let's go ahead and pick up our nice and toasty phone. Obviously make sure your phone is off, and we're going to find the edge here, which is very hard to see on a black. I'm going to start slicing it open here. A lot of people like to use plastic or playing cards. I don't. I always like to use the metal tools, but it does have quite the curved edge here. So make sure your iFlex tool has bent around there properly. So right here is the glass kind of curves up, so be careful right here as well. It's nice and slow, and if you warmed up your phone properly on your hot plate, it'll make it very easy to separate this. So now it should be coming a lot looser, and let's open this slowly up. It'd be nice to our glue if we want to put it back on. So what I like to do here is try to push it back on by pulling it apart. Come on. There we go. I'm gonna smash it back on. Wow. Look at the insides of this thing. Holy moly. So I'm going to organize all my screws on this pad here, this blue pad in front of me. And I like to spatially organize the screws as I go. So let's go ahead and start taking one screw at a time off. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver. I recommend the 2UUL, which is this one right here. It's really sharp and it works very well, and it doesn't really strip screws. The 5G antenna is interesting looking. That's the 5G antenna right there. Looks like it's an old LED. Looks like it has a bunch of zeros there. That's crazy. If you're having trouble grabbing these screws, I'd recommend using a magnetizer to remagnetize your screwdriver. And it looks like something like this. They're really cheap. You just circle your phone around there and remagnetize it. Now, the reason why I like to organize the screws is sometimes screws can be different sizes. But I recommend using one of these, the spludger, to disconnect. Let's see if I can. These usually separate right here. Oh, okay, there we go. Now it is. Oh, now we can see the inside here. See if we can start disconnecting this here. Oh, looks like we got one hidden screw under there. All right, now we can start putting some pieces aside. And we can disconnect the battery here. This looks like it. Just get close to it and then twist up. And that'll always disconnect your cables. Why we want to use plastic tools here, so we don't want to damage the board. Wow, this thing is intense. Definitely one of the most complicated Samsung phones I've ever seen. That is your 5G millimeter antenna. I'm going to disconnect, looks like the camera from the main board. And I'm just trying to see how the main board comes out here. Looks like we got another little cable over here we got to disconnect. All right, so we're gonna move all these cables out of the way. I'll try to lift up the board here. I'm just trying to pry underneath and lift it up. Missing something? Let's try to get this out of the way first. Alright. Oh, that technology is crazy in here. That didn't seem like it needed to be removed. Oh, you know what could help? Let's remove the obvious SIM tray. There's the SIM tray out. Now we should be able to remove. This is crazy. It is definitely in there very good. Oh, we got one cable here. We forgot to disconnect the front camera. Wow. That is one heavy piece of hardware here. Look how thick that motherboard is. That's multiple motherboards sandwiched together. And got a rear camera here. You need to replace that. We're gonna have to disconnect these. I would assume that if anyone broke one of these cameras, it's gonna be quite expensive. This bracket here looks like we could remove the cameras individually. Okay, that's slightly glued on right there. And then this bracket would have to move out to replace this camera. And you could probably just remove it with some heavy prying, but since this is a working camera, I don't want to ruin it. These are very delicate. Wow, this is nuts how Samsung has decided to design this. So I just put some pressure in there and that won't pop out. So you're gonna have to use a lot of prying to get one of these cameras out to replace it. I am not going to do that because I don't want to damage this $1,400 phone. That lines up with, oh, that's the flash sensor. That's just super thick up there. All right, so now that we have removed the motherboard, let's go ahead and take apart the bottom. All right, so that we have removed all the screws, let's try to pop this up here. We're going to do some twisting action. And it went flying. So make sure you cover it before doing that. Little red spot here, that's interesting. So this is your loudspeaker. All right, let's disconnect some of these cables. And more screws, of course. Be very careful unscrewing these screws. You don't want to damage this charge port here. That one's really in there. You gotta put some muscle behind it. Just twisting slowly here to lift this board out. Backside here. Charge port soldered onto this piece, but it looks like this piece could be easily replaced without too much cost. This is one of your microphones here too. Here's your other microphone. And there should be a third one. There usually is, but it's probably hidden somewhere else. Not sure what this piece is. Is it part of the board? It is. That vibrator motor is square. That's a first I've seen. Let's see if our front camera comes out with ease. It does not. It looks like it's glued on. So we're going to go ahead and now bring the phone over here. And we're going to start warming it up. So we can remove the battery, the vibrator motor, the ear speaker, and the front camera. We'll have to give it a few minutes to doing that to warm it up. We are not going to replace the screen because the screen usually comes in the glass LCD and frame. That's original. If you need to replace just the screen only, then you're going to need to heat up the front like we're doing right now with the hot plate, remove it, and then put down specialized glue. I recommend T7000. to glue down the screen if you're going to go about that direction. If you do, just know it's probably going to be refurbished because Samsung usually only sells their screens with glass LCD end frame. Okay, so we're going to give this a few minutes and warm it up.
ASAP created a solution to maximize the total amount of power that can be safely generated without using fossil fuels. This is enough energy to power solder equipment, laser machines, AC and ventilation systems, and any heating element for all sorts of repairs you might encounter. Building mobile solutions that cut your expenses. Whether you have 1 store or 20 stores, maintain the territory, all while cutting overhead rent. Do away with your added expenses, cut costs, and order your custom van now.
Okay, so now that it gets hot to the touch, you're ready to remove the battery and all the other components. But I prefer to remove the components while it's constantly heating. So some people like to use alcohol underneath here, and I've seen a few videos with that. I prefer not. I just like to use lots of heat and a little gentle prying with an iseasmo tool. Works great. So I'm just gonna start here. Just make sure you don't puncture the battery. If you do, this thing will light on fire. And it easily removes. No prying whatsoever. I mean, well, it's not that difficult, as some have said. Ooh, look at this. Look, that's an ultra fingerprint sensor reader. That's cool. All right, so we're gonna get some tweezers here. Looks like the entry point for the vibrator motor is right here. And that easily removed with little effort. And we're gonna go back to this front camera here. Let's see if we can get this thing popped out. Come on, baby. Just slowly prying. Now I'm gonna pull a little bit, very carefully. It's kind of tucked underneath there. So that's your front camera. Now we're gonna go for the ear speaker. Hopefully this doesn't have to be transferred. Most Samsung original screens do already have this on, but they may not have it on there. So we're gonna go ahead and pop this out. Just wanna get underneath and then straight dive in. Pull up. And with enough heat, that'll come off very easily. What I'm doing is fixing the adhesive, so that way it seals properly on the new one. So we still got the side buttons that we might have to potentially remove, or the 5G antenna. I'm confident we're gonna have to remove the 5G antenna. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. And these are really screwed in tightly too. I don't know if it requires heat for the 5G antenna, but I'm just leaving it on the heater anyways. Okay, so there's the 5G antenna here. Oh, and here's another one. It looks like the other one that we pulled out earlier. And so hopefully when you're replacing the units, the whole entire phone will come with the new frame. If it doesn't, you're gonna have to deal with dings or dents that you have previously had on the phone. We're not going to remove the power button or home button because this should come with it. If you have to remove the front screen, like I said, you're just going to slice it off with like an iFlex here along the sides and just pop it off. So now we're going to reassemble everything. So before doing that, we're gonna go ahead and just set this aside. Let's go ahead and just start backwards here. Vibration motor, ear speaker, looks just like all the other ear speakers I've pulled from Galaxies. Front camera that does not want to fit in there. Oh, geez, Dustin. You can't put it in backwards. There we go. And battery. Usually like to put battery in a little after, so what we're going to do is put on after, and I'll show you why here in a little bit. Go ahead and put the charge port on, and let's put the screws in. Now I'm not using my automatic tool because I don't want to slip when screwing in screws on a motherboard. It's very easily done. Just carefully sliding this back into place. Hopefully not getting anything wrong. Careful not to touch any of the lenses. I almost touched the 100x zoom one. So I feel like this is not quite right. So what I want to do here is take this off again. And switch this around right there. I'll show you what I did here. So this piece here was on the other side. So this needs to be on the top, the metal bracket above the motherboard, it looks like, to make it look right. And I highly recommend not even taking this apart unless you need to replace the cameras. Okay, this overly complicated phone is finally assembled there with the camera. Slide that back in. That was pretty easy. And now we just have to clip some cables in. Carefully clip them in. Okay, so this is where I was talking about the battery here. We're gonna make sure the battery's lined up first by plugging it in. So I plugged it in first. Then I can push it forward That way it sits in there perfectly right. Done that for years for different batteries. You just got to clip all these cables back in here now. This is quite the complicated phone, for sure, for a Samsung. It's one of their most complicated ones I've seen so far. Go ahead and screw these screws in. You can use an automated one if you want, because there's no motherboard really to destroy here or slip on. Whew, this is quite complicated. Lots of fun. Hey, since we got the SIM card out, we can go ahead and put our SIM card in. Why not? And put our little SIM card in. You should already have one in this phone. All right. Now this thing's ready to activate. Woohoo! Oh, I missed something. There we go. Can't forget one of the 5G antennas. Make sure they're all clipped in. Grabbing all these screws here, screwing everything down. All right. See if I did anything wrong here. This goes underneath a little bit. That plugs in right there. Let's get the screws in here for the millimeter wave. Screw over here. All right, now that we get all the screws in, make sure this is properly aligned. Just pressing it down a little bit here. And we are ready to put this nice and toasty back piece back on. Just getting the tape to sit flush here. If not, like I said, you can use T7000 if you're replacing the back. Make sure it's sealed and glued on tightly. You can press this down for about a couple minutes, or you can just use a press like this. This is a foam press, so it's going to go around every edge, and it's going to make sure it has a good pressure. all around the phone. So after waiting for about 2 minutes, you can take your phone out of the press. I would recommend 5 minutes if you use T7000 to seal it. And it's ready to turn on. That's it, guys. That's a full teardown of the Galaxy S20 Ultra 5G. It's quite the mouthful. I'll be tearing down some of the other phones today, so please like and subscribe, and hopefully watch the other ones. More coming. Thanks, guys.